Shading with charcoal can be very intimidating, but in this video I'm going to be showing you step by step how to shade a realistic human eye using charcoal. And to make this easy for you, I've uploaded the reference I'm going to be using for this particular video onto a Google Drive, which I'm going to be linking in the description below, so you can just download it and draw along with me. So grab your charcoal and let's get started. So these are all the tools and supplies I'm going to be using for this video. So I'm going to be going through them one by one so you can recognize them whenever I use them in the video. This is the general scribbly graphite pencils. I'm going to be using them for some detailing in the video. And these are my charcoal block. We have the soft, hard and the medium, and then we have some charcoal pencils over here. This is HB, 2B, 6B, and then this is an extra soft charcoal pencil which will help us get those really dark details on the drawing. And this is a makeup sponge. Now I'm supposed to use this for blending, but for this video that's not really what I use it for. So I use it to lift off a little bit of charcoal off of the drawing. Then this is the sharpener. I use it for sharpening my pencils. This is my eraser. Then this is the kneaded eraser. In this video I use the kneaded eraser to create a couple of details on the drawing. And then this is the charcoal powder we are going to be making use of. Now if you don't have a charcoal powder like this, or you can't afford to get one, you can also use a charcoal block like this to create powder. And if you don't have blocks like this and you have pencils, you can also create charcoal powder from your pencils. This is my electric eraser, my mechanical eraser and my mono zero eraser. Now this I'm going to be using them to create details on the drawing. Now this is a blending stump. I'm going to be using this for blending, but I don't really use it that often. And here we have a jar with all of my brushes and other blending materials. These are my most used brushes. This. Well, it kind of depends on what I want to achieve, but as we go along in the video, you'll see which of these brushes I'm going to be using to get certain results. So without further ado, let's dive right into the video. When drawing with charcoal powder, what you want to do first is place your drawing surface vertically. Now this is because this isn't just only great for your back, but this also helps you keep your drawing really nice and neat and prevent those really nasty smudges you can get from your drawings whenever you're using a powdered medium. And now we are just going to block in the darkest portions of our drawing using a 2B charcoal pencil. Now the reason why I like to do this first is because I like to play around with contrast with my drawings, so I can go back again and readjust the level of darkness of the darkest spots depending on how dark I go on other parts of my drawing. So I can just keep going back to the darkest parts of the drawing and just keep readjusting them and fine-tuning it until I get to that point where I'm pretty comfortable with it. Next we are moving on to drawing the eyebrow, and my best tip for drawing eyebrow is to not really overthink it. If not, you're just going to mess up the whole thing. And for the technique, it's all in the wrist, so just move your wrists. You can see how I'm doing it. Just go one strand at a time, and now I'm just going to kind of speed this up so we don't really take much of our time. Here is my charcoal powder, and now I'm just going to be laying down some shadows on the eye with it and try my possible best to stay within the lines. But if you do go out of the lines, then a little mess never really hurt anyone. You'll still be fine. Now that that's done, we're going to be adding the first layer of shadows to the skin, starting from the nose bridge. Now I'm just going to be using my charcoal powder to soften up the hair because my goal is to create a blurry effect between the hair, the background, and the hair of the subject. And I am going to speed this process up just a little bit so I can save some time. You can see how I'm trying to keep all the edges and textures as smooth and soft as possible. This should also be your goal. And after this, you're going to be jumping right back into the skin tone, which you're going to be doing in time lapse. This is the charcoal powder I use up close, and I just put a little in a smaller container for easier application. Now I'm using my blending stump to add some details to the tear dots to keep those details as soft as possible. And at this point I didn't even realize my head was in front of the entire camera, so please just bear with me. After working on some of the details for the tear dots, I'm going to go back to fine tuning the skin tone and darkening up some areas to increase the depth of the drawing.
Now I'm just switching out gloves to ones with my fingers out because I've gotten to that point where I'm going to start detailing and I need to be able to feel a lot of the mediums I'm using with my skin.
Now I'm using my kneadable eraser to add some texture to the skin on the nose bridge. Next, I'm going darker on my eyebrows using my extra soft charcoal pencil just to separate the eyebrows from the rest of the drawing. To create some blurry edge strand effect for my eyebrows, I'm going to be using a blending stump. And now that we've laid a pretty good foundation for the skin tone, we're going to go ahead and add some blemishes. I'm going to go a little darker on the shadows of the eye to give it more depth and work on some of the skin texture around the eye. If at this point you realize you are having some issues keeping up with some of the materials and tools I'm using in this video, then you should check out my other video linked above where I comprehensively talk about all the tools I use, why I use them and how I use them. This should lay a pretty good foundation for you to keep up with this tutorial or any other tutorial I might create in the future. Using my kneaded eraser, I'm just going to go over some of the foundation of the details I'm going to be creating on the skin, which I'm going to be going over later with my electric or mechanical eraser. Now, because light can't exist without casting a shadow, we're going to be creating some shadows around our highlights using a big graphite pencil. And we are going to be doing this in the opposite direction of the source of the light. Now I'm going in with my electric eraser just to make sure some of the highlights stand out. Pretty much from here is going to be me doing the same thing over and over again until I'm pretty satisfied with what I have, which is creating highlights and shadows and then softening some of them up and then just doing that over and over again. Now I'm just going to be going over all of that using time lapse, and the reason why it might seem like I'm not really focusing on adding details is because once you have a pretty good foundation laid, which is the skin tone and the skin texture, then the detailing is just like icing on the cake.
And besides, this video really isn't about detailing, it's more about how to shade using charcoal. But if you'd like to know how to detail the way I do, then you can just let me know in the comments, and depending on how much requests I get, I'm going to consider creating a tutorial for that. If you've been able to follow this tutorial up to this point, you should have a drawing that looks something like this.
Thanks for drawing along with me. Now, if you enjoyed this tutorial and you would like to keep improving your art skills, you can check out my other videos with really helpful techniques and tips that can help you take your drawings to that next level. I'm a broadcaster and I would really love to hear how your drawing turned out in the comments. Now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out when I drop my next video. See you soon.